The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the most beautiful place in the known universe. Giant pillars of crystal rose from the floor to the ceiling, glowing with soft blue light. The floor was made of polished stone from 100 different worlds. 12 massive chairs sat in a half circle, and in each chair sat a representative of the elder species. These 12 species had ruled the galaxy for 60,000 years. They had built empires, created laws, and decided the fate of countless civilizations. They believed they were wise. They believed they knew what was best for everyone. They were wrong. Admiral David Park stood in the center of the hall. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that showed no emotion. Behind him stood Captain Lisa Cole and a small group of human officers. They wore their dress uniforms, dark blue with silver buttons. They stood straight and proud, even though they knew what was coming. The High Speaker of the Council was a creature called Lorth. He was 12 feet tall with pale skin and 3 mouths arranged in a triangle on his face. His eyes were black and empty, like holes in space. When he spoke, all 3 mouths moved at the same time. "Humanity," Lorth said, his voice echoing through the great hall. "You have been observed for 30 of your years. The Council has reached a decision." Admiral Park said nothing. He simply waited. "Your species is too dangerous," Lorth continued. "You are aggressive. You are emotional. You fight wars among yourselves. You cannot control your own nature." One of the other council members, a being called Elder Mavic, leaned forward in his chair. Mavic looked like a giant insect with golden shells covering his body. "We have seen your history," Mavic said. "Your world wars. Your weapons of mass destruction. You nearly destroyed yourselves twice before you even reached the stars." "We survived," Admiral Park said quietly. "We learned." "You learned nothing," Lorth replied. All 3 of his mouths smiled at the same time. It was not a kind smile. In 30 years of contact with the galactic community, you have been involved in 7 conflicts. 7. No other species has such a record. Captain Lisa Cole stepped forward. Her hands were shaking with anger, but she kept her voice steady. "Those conflicts were not our fault. We were defending ourselves. We were defending others." "Silence," Lorth commanded. "You will speak only when permitted." Lisa wanted to say more. She wanted to tell him about the colony on New Haven, where humans had died protecting alien refugees. She wanted to tell them about the trade route pirates that humanity had stopped when no one else would. But Admiral Park put a hand on her arm and she stepped back. "The decision is final," Lorth announced. "Humanity will be relocated to the Dead Corridor. You will have 5 years to move your entire population. After that time, any human found in civilized space will be arrested and imprisoned." The Dead Corridor. Admiral Park knew what that meant. It was a cluster of barren worlds at the very edge of the galaxy. No resources. No allies. No hope. The Council was sending humanity to die slowly, far away from everyone else. "You cannot do this," said a voice from the human group. It was a young officer named James Yoon. He was only 25 years old, and he could not stay silent. 8 billion people. You are condemning 8 billion people to exile. For what? Because we are different from you? Lorth turned his empty black eyes toward James. "You prove our point, young one." Such emotion. Such inability to control yourself. This is why humanity cannot remain among civilized species. Admiral Park finally spoke. His voice was calm and cold. "We will go. We will not fight this decision. But I want you to remember this moment. Remember how you smiled. Remember how easy it was for you to throw away an entire species. Is that a threat?" Elder Mavic asked. "No," Admiral Park replied. "It is a promise. One day you will meet us. And on that day, you will remember what you did here." Vorath laughed. It was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. "We have ruled this galaxy for 60,000 years. We have faced threats you cannot imagine. We do not need you. We will never need you." Admiral Park nodded slowly. Then he turned and walked out of the Great Hall. His officers followed him. None of them looked back. Outside, the streets of the Council capital were filled with aliens of every shape and size. Many of them stopped to watch the humans walk by. Some of them pointed. Some of them laughed. Word had already spread about the decision dog Lisa walked beside the Admiral. "Sir," she said quietly, "we cannot just accept this. We have to fight." "No," Admiral Park replied. "Fighting now would prove them right. They want us to be violent. They want an excuse to destroy us completely." He looked up at the alien sky, filled with unfamiliar stars. "We will go to the dead corridor. We will survive. And we will become something they never expected." "What is that, sir?" Admiral Park did not answer immediately. They reached their shuttle and climbed inside. Only when the doors closed did he speak again. "We will become a storm," he said. "A storm they cannot stop. A storm they will never see coming." The shuttle lifted off and flew toward the human fleet waiting in orbit. Below them, the Council capital sparkled with lights and celebration. The aliens were happy. They believed they had solved the human problem forever. In the Great Hall, Vorath and the other council members congratulated each other. They drank fine wine and spoke of the future. A future without the troublesome humans. "They will die out within a generation," Elder Mavic predicted. "The dead corridor has nothing. No fertile worlds. No trade routes. Nothing." "Good," Vorath said, smiling with all three mouths. "Let them fade away quietly. The galaxy will be better without them." None of them noticed the look in Admiral Park's eyes as he left. None of them understood what they had just done. They thought they were protecting the galaxy from a threat. They had no idea that they had just created one dot in the darkness of space. The human fleet gathered. 1,200 ships, carrying the first wave of colonists to their new home. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the Council's world grow smaller and smaller. "Set course for the dead corridor," he ordered. "Yes, sir," the navigator replied. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed and disappeared into the void. Behind them, the galaxy continued to spin. The Council continued to rule. Everything seemed peaceful, but deep in David Park's heart, something had changed. He had always believed in diplomacy. He had always believed that humanity could find its place among the stars, through peace and cooperation. That belief was dead now. The Council had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. And when the time came, the galaxy would learn that exiling humanity was the worst mistake in 60,000 years of history. 20 years passed in the dead corridor. The Council forgot about humanity. They had more important things to worry about. Trade agreements, border disputes, the endless politics of 1,000 star systems. The humans were gone, and that was all that mattered. But in the darkness at the edge of the galaxy, something incredible was happening. President Emma Stone stood at the window of her office, looking out at the city below. It was not much of a city. Simple buildings made from local stone and recycled ship parts. But it was home now. Humanity's new home. When the exiles first arrived in the dead corridor, many people thought they would die. The planets were harsh. The resources were few. There was no help coming from anyone. Some people gave up. Some people lost hope. But most did not. Emma Stone had been a young senator when the exile began. Now she was the president of the United Human Colonies. She had watched her people struggle and suffer. She had also watched them adapt and overcome. A knock came at her door. "Come in," she said. General Michael Hahn entered the room. He was a short man with broad shoulders and a shaved head. Scars covered his hands from years of combat training. He was the commander of all human military forces. "The new shipyard is complete," he reported. "That makes 17 total. We can now build 50 warships per month." Emma nodded slowly. "And the stealth technology?" Commander Rachel Kim finished the final tests yesterday. "Our ships are now invisible to every sensor system in the known galaxy. Not even the Council's best equipment can detect us." This was the secret that humanity had been building for 20 years. While the galaxy thought they were dying, they were actually preparing. Every man, woman, and child had a role to play. Scientists worked on new technologies. Engineers built ships in hidden factories. Soldiers trained in underground bases. Emma turned away from the window. "What about Dr. Reed?" General Hahn smiled. It was a rare sight on his serious face. "He did it. 0-point energy. We have unlimited power now. Our ships can travel faster and farther than anything the Council has ever built." Dr. Thomas Reed was the greatest scientist humanity had ever produced. When the exile began, he was just a young professor. Now he was the man who had changed everything. 0-point energy was supposed to be impossible. Every species in the galaxy had tried and failed. But Thomas Reed had succeeded. "Unlimited power," Emma repeated. "Invisible ships. Weapons that no one has ever seen. And 3,000 warships hidden in the asteroid fields." 3,000 and growing, Hahn confirmed. "In 2 more years, we will have 5,000. Emma sat down at her desk. On the wall behind her hung a simple photograph. It showed the Earth, blue and beautiful, floating in space. Most humans had never seen Earth in person. They had been born in the dead corridor, on cold planets with thin air and weak sunlight. But they all knew what Earth looked like. They all knew what had been taken from them. "The Council thinks we are dying," Emma said quietly. "Let them think that," Hahn replied. "When the time comes, their surprise will be our greatest weapon." On the other side of the colony, a young pilot named James Yoon climbed into his training simulator. He was older now, 45 years old, but still one of the best pilots in the fleet. He had been training others for 15 years. "Good morning, everyone," he said into his headset. "Today we practice the swarm formation. This is the attack pattern that will break any enemy fleet." Around him, hundreds of other pilots climbed into their own simulators. They were called the Storm Division. They were the best of the best, chosen from millions of volunteers. Every single one of them had trained for 10,000 hours in combat simulation. The exercise began. Virtual enemy ships appeared on their screens. James led his squadron through them like a knife through water. His pilots followed every command without hesitation. They moved as one, a perfect killing machine. When the exercise ended, James removed his helmet. One of his students, a young woman named Karen White, approached him. "Sir, do you really think we will ever use these skills?" She asked. "We have been training for so long. What if the Council never comes? What if we spend our whole lives preparing for a war that never happens?" James looked at her for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Do you know why I joined the military?" Karen shook her head. "I was there when the Council exiled us. I was young and stupid. I spoke out of turn. I showed them exactly what they expected from humans. Emotion, anger, lack of control." James paused. "I have never forgiven myself for that." "But that was not your fault," Karen said. "They had already made their decision." "Maybe, but I swore that when the time came, I would be ready. I would make them pay for what they did. Not through anger, not through rage, through cold, careful, perfect action." James smiled. "The war will come, Karen. I do not know when. I do not know how, but it will come. And when it does, we will be ready. In her laboratory deep underground, Commander Rachel Kim was working on her latest invention. She was a thin woman with glasses and messy hair. She never slept more than 4 hours a night. There was too much work to do. Her latest project was a new type of shield. Normal shields stopped weapons from hitting a ship. Her shield would absorb the energy of enemy weapons and use it to power the ship's own guns. The more you shot at a human ship, the stronger it became. Impossible, the Council's scientists would say. Cannot be done, the laws of physics seemed to suggest. Rachel did not care about impossible. She had made her career doing impossible things. A message appeared on her screen. It was from President Stone, requesting her presence at a meeting. Rachel saved her work and headed to the surface. The meeting was held in a simple room with a long table. Around the table sat the leaders of humanity. President Stone, General Han, Admiral Park, now old but still sharp, Dr. Reed, Captain Lisa Cole, who now commanded the entire Second Fleet. "We have received news," President Stone said. "Our spy in Council space sent a message. Something is happening. Ships are moving. There is fear spreading through the alien worlds." "What kind of fear?" Admiral Park asked. "We do not know yet. But whatever it is big. The Council is scared of something. Something they have never faced before." The room was silent for a moment. Then General Han spoke. "This could be our opportunity. If the Council is distracted, we might be able to strike." "No," Admiral Park said firmly. "We do not attack first. We never attack first. That would make us exactly what they said we were." He looked around the table. "We wait. We watch. And when the moment is right, we act." President Stone nodded. "Agreed. But I want every ship ready. Every soldier prepared. If something is coming, we need to be ready for anything." In the cold darkness of space, the human fleet waited in silence. 3,000 ships, hidden among the asteroids, invisible to every sensor. Inside those ships, millions of men and women prepared for a war that had been building for 20 years. The Council had exiled humanity to die. Instead, humanity had become something new, something powerful, something the galaxy had never seen before. The storm was ready. Now they just needed a reason to unleash it. The first warning came from a small colony on the outer edge of Council space. The message was short and filled with screaming. Then there was silence. The Council sent a fleet to investigate. 50 warships, some of the best in the galaxy. They found nothing. No colony, no buildings, no bodies. The entire planet had been stripped clean, as if something had eaten everything on it. Then the fleet itself went silent. High Speaker Varth stood in the Council chamber, reading report after report. Each one was worse than the last. Colonies disappearing. Fleets destroyed. Entire species running for their lives. Something was coming from the void between galaxies, and it was hungry. They called it the swarm. No one knew where the swarm came from. No one knew what they wanted. They did not talk. They did not negotiate. They simply arrived, consumed everything in their path, and moved on. Their ships were alive, giant creatures made of metal and flesh, with teeth and claws and weapons that could crack planets open. "We must unite our forces," Elder Mavic said, his voice shaking with fear. "All 12 species together. It is the only way." "It will not be enough," another council member replied. We have run the calculations. Even with all our forces combined, we cannot stop them. There are too many." Vorath slammed his hand on the table. "There must be a way. We have ruled this galaxy for 60,000 years. We cannot fall now." But even as he spoke, another message arrived. The swarm had reached his homeworld. Billions of his people were dying. His cities were burning. His species was being eaten alive. Vorath fell to his knees. For the first time in his long life, he felt true terror. Across the galaxy, Ambassador Karen White watched the chaos from her small apartment on a neutral trading station. She had been humanity's representative in Council Space for 10 years. Her job was to watch, listen, and report. Most of the time, nothing interesting happened. Now everything was happening at once. Refugees filled the station. Aliens of every species ran through the corridors, carrying their belongings, searching for any ship that would take them away from the swarm. Children cried. Adults fought over food and water. The air smelled like fear. Karen locked her door and turned on her secure communication device. It took several minutes to connect to the dead corridor. When the signal finally went through, Admiral Park's face appeared on the screen. "Ambassador White," he said. "Report." "Sir, it is worse than we thought. The swarm has destroyed 7 Council species already. The others are falling apart. Their fleets are scattered. Their governments have collapsed. There is no leadership, no coordination, nothing." Admiral Park was quiet for a moment. "What about the Council itself?" "Vorath is dead. His homeworld was one of the first to fall. Elder Mavic is trying to hold things together, but no one is listening to him anymore. Everyone is too scared." Karen paused. "Sir, they are going to come to us. They have nowhere else to go. Sooner or later, they will arrive at the dead corridor and beg for our help." "Let them come," Admiral Park said. His voice was cold, but Karen could see something else in his eyes. Not hatred, not anger, something that looked almost like satisfaction. "We've been waiting for this moment for 20 years. The transmission ended. Karen sat in the darkness of her apartment, listening to the screams outside. She felt no joy at what was happening. She had lived among these aliens for a decade. Some of them had been kind to her. Some had become friends, but she also remembered the exile. She remembered watching her people leave their homes, their lives, everything they had ever known. She remembered the Council's smiles. Now those smiles were gone. 3 months later, what remained of the Council fleet arrived at the border of the dead corridor. They were a sad sight. Ships damaged and barely flying. Refugees packed into cargo holds. Leaders who had once ruled a galaxy now looking like lost children. Elder Mavic led the delegation. His golden shell was cracked and dull. He had not eaten properly in weeks. Half of his species was dead. The other half was scattered across the galaxy, hiding in any hole they could find. The human border station was a simple structure, nothing compared to the grand buildings of Council Space. But to Mavic, it looked like paradise. It looked like safety. Admiral David Park met them at the station. He was very old now, over 80 years old, but he still stood straight and proud. Behind him stood Captain Lisa Cole, General Michael Hahn, and 100 human soldiers in battle armor. Mavic fell to his knees. He did not care about pride anymore. Pride was for people who had something to lose. "Please," Mavic said, "you must help us. The swarm is coming. It will consume everything. Everyone. You cannot hide from it here. No one can hide from it." Admiral Park looked down at the broken alien. 20 years ago, this creature had smiled as humanity was sent to die. 20 years ago, he had called humans dangerous and violent and unfit for civilized company. "You smiled when we left," Admiral Park said. His voice was quiet but hard as steel. "Yes," Mavic admitted. "Yes, I smiled. I was wrong. We were all wrong. Please, I am begging you. Help us. Help everyone." The silence stretched for a long time. Lisa Cole watched her admiral, waiting for his decision. She remembered the exile, too. She remembered the anger and the pain. A part of her wanted to turn these aliens away. A part of her wanted to watch them suffer like humanity had suffered. But that part was small. And it was getting smaller. Finally, Admiral Park spoke. You exiled us because you thought we were monsters. You sent us to die because you were afraid of what we might become. Yes, Mavic whispered. You were right to be afraid. Admiral Park leaned down until his face was close to the aliens. We have become something terrible. Something your worst nightmares could not imagine. We have built a fleet that can break worlds. We have created weapons that your scientists said were impossible. Mavic trembled. But you were also wrong, the Admiral continued. Because monsters do not show mercy. Monsters do not help their enemies. Monsters do not sacrifice themselves for people who try to destroy them. He straightened up and looked at the refugee ships. Thousands of aliens were watching through the windows, waiting to hear their fate. We are not monsters, Admiral Park said. We are human. And we will help you. Not because you deserve it. Not because we forgive you. But because it is the right thing to do. Mavic started to cry. The tears rolled down his cracked golden shell. Thank you, he said. Thank you. Admiral Park turned to General Han. Begin evacuation procedures. Get these people food, water, and medical care. And send a message to President Stone. Tell her the time has come. What time, sir? Han asked. Admiral Park looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the swarm was coming. Millions of ships filled with death and hunger, consuming everything in their path. Time to show the galaxy what humanity can do, he said. Time to release the storm. The human fleet began to move. 3,000 ships that had been hiding in darkness for 2 decades. They powered up their engines, activated their weapons, and prepared for the greatest battle in galactic history. The Council had smiled when humanity departed. Now it was humanity's turn to show them what that smile had cost. The swarm had gathered at Nexus Prime. 10 million bioships circled the central hub of the galaxy, preparing for the final push. Once they took Nexus Prime, nothing could stop them. The entire galaxy would fall. The Swarm Queen sat at the center of her fleet. She was enormous, larger than a moon, with 1,000 eyes that could see across space itself. She had consumed countless civilizations. She had tasted the memories of 1 trillion dead beings. The galaxy was almost hers. Then something strange happened. Her sensors detected nothing. Her eyes saw nothing. But somehow, she felt something. A presence. A threat. Something was coming. Show yourself, she commanded, her voice echoing through the void. Silence. Then the stars began to change. Ships appeared from nowhere. First 1, then 10, then 100, then thousands. They flickered into existence like ghosts, their stealth systems dropping away to reveal the full power of the United Human Fleet. Captain Lisa Cole stood on the bridge of the flagship, unbroken. She was 65 years old now, with gray hair and lines on her face from decades of waiting. But her eyes were sharp, and her voice was steady. All ships report ready, Commander Rachel Kim announced from her station. Stealth systems disengaged. Weapons online. Shields at maximum power. Lisa nodded. Send the message to all frequencies. I want every ship in this system to hear it. The communication officer pressed a button. A moment later, Lisa's voice echoed across the battlefield. Attention, swarm forces. This is Captain Lisa Cole of the United Human Fleet. We are here to end your invasion. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Continue your attack, and we will destroy you completely. You have 1 minute to respond. The Swarm Queen laughed. It was a terrible sound, like 1 billion insects screaming at once. Little humans, I have heard of you. The species that was thrown away. The garbage of the galaxy. Do you think you can stop me? I have consumed civilizations older than your star. I have eaten gods." Lisa smiled. It was not a kind smile. "You have never eaten anything like us." "Attack," the Queen commanded. 10 million swarm ships surged forward. They were horrifying things, part machine and part creature, with claws and teeth and weapons that dripped acid. They screamed as they flew, a sound that had driven entire species insane with fear. The human fleet did not move. "Hold position," Lisa ordered. "Wait for my command." The swarm ships got closer. 1 million kilometers. 500,000. 100,000. "Now," Lisa said calmly, "deploy the storm division." From the belly of every human ship, smaller fighters launched. Thousands of them, fast and deadly, piloted by the best humanity had to offer. At their head was Lieutenant Commander James Yoon, now 65 years old, but still flying. "Storm Division," James said into his comm. "This is what we trained for. 20 years of preparation. 20 years of waiting. For everyone they left to die. For everyone watching. Show them what exile taught us." The Storm Division hit the swarm like a fist made of fire. Human fighters moved in patterns that no computer could predict. They wove between enemy ships, striking weak points, avoiding counterattacks. Their weapons were new technology that the galaxy had never seen. Beams of pure energy that cut through swarm armor like paper. Missiles that exploded into clouds of nanobots, eating enemy ships from the inside. The Swarm Queen watched in shock. Her forces were dying. Not slowly. Not gradually. They were being slaughtered. "Impossible," she hissed. "These are primitives, exiles, nobodies. Target the big ships," James commanded. "Break their formation. Push them back." The human capital ships moved forward now, their massive guns firing. Commander Rachel Kim's shields absorbed every hit from the swarm weapons, converting the energy into more firepower. The more the swarm shot at them, the harder the humans hit back. Captain Lisa Cole watched the battle from the bridge of Unbroken. Her tactical display showed the enemy fleet breaking apart. Swarm ships were trying to retreat, but human forces had surrounded them. There was nowhere to run. "Admiral Park," Lisa said into her comm. "The enemy is in full retreat. Requesting orders." Admiral Park's voice came through, old and tired but still strong. "No mercy. They gave none to the worlds they consumed. They received none from us." "Understood, sir." Lisa turned to her crew. "All ships, pursue and destroy. Do not let a single swarm vessel escape." The battle lasted for 6 hours. 6 hours of fire and death and destruction. 6 hours of fire and death and destruction. James Yoon led his fighters through the heart of the enemy fleet, destroying swarm ships by the hundreds. Captain Cole's Unbroken faced the Queen's personal guard and tore them apart. Finally, only the Queen herself remained. She was damaged now, bleeding from 1,000 wounds. Her eyes, once bright with hunger, were dim and frightened. She had never known fear before. She had never faced an enemy she could not consume. "What are you?" she asked as the human fleet surrounded her. Admiral Park's face appeared on her screens. He looked at her with eyes that held no hatred, no anger, only cold, absolute determination. "We are the storm," he said. "The storm your kind never saw coming. The storm that will end your invasion forever. Please," the Queen begged. "I can give you power, knowledge. I have the memories of 1 trillion beings. I can share them with you. We can rule this galaxy together. No. Then what do you want?" Admiral Park was silent for a moment. Then he spoke one word: justice. Every human ship fired at once. Beams of energy, missiles, weapons of every kind struck the Swarm Queen from all directions. She screamed as her body tore apart, as her billion eyes went dark one by one. When it was over, nothing remained but dust. Captain Lisa Cole sat back in her chair. Her hands were shaking. 20 years of preparation. 20 years of exile and suffering and hope. It had all led to this moment. "Report," she said quietly. "Enemy fleet destroyed," her tactical officer replied. "We lost 800 ships. 300,000 personnel. But the swarm is gone. Completely gone." Lisa closed her eyes. 300,000 dead. Good men and women who would never go home. The victory was real, but so was the cost. "Send a message to all survivors," she ordered. "Tell them it is over. Tell them they are safe." Across the galaxy, billions of beings heard the news. The swarm was defeated. The invasion was finished. Against all odds, against every prediction. Someone had stopped the unstoppable. And that someone was humanity. On refugee ships and hidden bunkers. On burning worlds and shattered stations, aliens looked up at the stars and wept. Some wept with relief. Some wept with shame. Some wept because they remembered what they had done to the species that had just saved them. Elder Mavic heard the news on the human station where he had been given shelter. He sat down slowly, his old body trembling. For a long time, he said nothing. Then he looked at the human soldier standing guard nearby. The soldier was young, maybe 20 years old. He had probably been born in exile on some cold rock at the edge of the galaxy. He had never seen Earth. He had never known anything but the dead corridor. "Your people saved us," Mavic said softly. The soldier looked at him. There was no hatred in his eyes. No anger. Just simple, quiet pride. "Yes, sir," the soldier replied. "That is what humans do." Mavic nodded slowly. He finally understood what Admiral Park had meant all those years ago. The storm was not about destruction. The storm was about showing the galaxy what humanity really was. And now everyone knew. The war against the swarm lasted 3 more years after the Battle of Nexus Prime. Smaller fleets of the enemy had spread across the galaxy, and they all had to be hunted down. Every nest had to be destroyed. Every last creature had to be eliminated. Humanity led the fight on every front. Captain Lisa Cole took her fleet into the darkest regions of space, clearing out swarm infestations that threatened helpless worlds. Commander James Yoon trained new pilots from a dozen different species, teaching them the tactics that had broken the enemy at Nexus Prime. Dr. Thomas Reed shared his technology with anyone who asked, helping rebuild shattered civilizations. They could have kept these things for themselves. They could have used their power to dominate the galaxy, to make the Council species pay for 20 years of exile. Many humans wanted exactly that dot, but President Emma Stone refused. "We are not conquerors," she told her people. "We are not tyrants." The Council was wrong about many things, but they were most wrong about who we are. We will prove that by our actions, not just our words. When the last swarm creature was destroyed, the surviving species gathered at the ruins of the old Council chamber. It had been the most beautiful place in the galaxy once. Now it was a broken shell, half of it destroyed by swarm weapons. President Stone stood at the center of the ruined hall. She was old now, nearly 80, but she still carried herself with grace and strength. Behind her stood Admiral Park, General Han, Lisa Cole, James Yoon, Rachel Kim, and Thomas Reed. The heroes who had saved the galaxy. Around them sat representatives from every surviving species. There were not 12 of them anymore. 5 of the original Council species were completely extinct. 4 others had been reduced to small populations of refugees. Only 3 still had functioning civilizations. 23 years ago, Emma Stone began, her voice echoing through the chamber. This council made a decision. They decided that humanity was too dangerous to live among civilized species. They decided to exile us to the dead corridor, where they expected us to die. No one spoke. Many of the aliens lowered their eyes in shame. They were right about one thing, Emma continued. We are dangerous. We proved that when we destroyed the swarm, we have weapons and ships and soldiers that could crush any force in this galaxy. We have the power to do whatever we want. She paused, letting her words sink in. But power without justice is tyranny. Strength without mercy is cruelty. And we refuse to become what the old council was. A murmur went through the crowd. Some aliens looked up with hope in their eyes. Others still seemed afraid. Today, we propose something new, Emma said. Not a council where the strong rule the weak. Not an empire where one species dominates all others. We propose a union, a true union, where every species has an equal voice, where decisions are made together, where no one is ever exiled simply for being different. Elder Mavic stood up from his seat. His golden shell had been repaired somewhat, but he was still a shadow of what he had once been. President Stone, he said, why would you offer this? After what we did to you, you could take everything. No one would stop you. Emma looked at him with calm, steady eyes. Because taking everything would make us no better than you were. Because ruling through fear would prove that the old council was right about us. She smiled slightly. And because humanity has never been about destruction. We are about building, creating, growing. We want to build something better than what came before. Admiral David Park stepped forward. He was very old now, almost 90, and he needed a cane to walk. But his voice was still strong. I have spent 60 years of my life preparing for war, he said. First against the council, if necessary. Then against the swarm. I am tired of war. I am tired of planning for death and destruction. For the years I have left, I want to plan for peace. He looked around the room at the assembled aliens. I do not forgive what was done to my people. I will never forget it. But I can choose to move forward. I can choose to build instead of destroy. That is the choice I am making today. Lisa Cole spoke next. I was there when we were exiled. I stood beside Admiral Park in this very chamber and watched the council smile as they threw us away. I hated them for it. I spent 20 years dreaming of revenge. She took a deep breath. But revenge would not bring back the people we lost. Revenge would not undo the suffering we endured. The only thing that matters now is what we do next. And I choose to do something good. One by one, the human leaders spoke. Each of them shared their memories of the exile, their pain, their anger. And each of them chose to let it go. Not to forget. Never to forget. But to move forward anyway. When they were finished, the alien representatives were crying. Some wept from relief. Some wept from shame. Some wept because they finally understood the depth of what they had done, and the incredible grace they were being shown on. The vote was unanimous. The new Galactic Union was created that day, with every species having equal representation. Humanity did not demand a leadership position. They did not need to. Everyone already knew who the true leaders were. Years passed. The galaxy rebuilt. Worlds that had been destroyed by the swarm were restored. Populations grew. Trade flourished. For the first time in a long time, there was hope. Ambassador Karen White was appointed as humanity's permanent representative to the Union Council. She had spent decades living among aliens, and she understood them better than almost anyone. She was firm but fair, always pushing for justice while respecting the rights of every species. One day, an old and tired Elder Mavic came to visit her. Ambassador, he said, I have a request. Of course, Elder. What can I do for you? I am dying, Mavic said simply. My species does not live as long as humans, and I have used up most of my years. Before I go, I want to visit Earth. I want to see the world we tried to take from you." Karen was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "I will arrange it personally." A week later, Karen and Mavic stood on a hill overlooking a green valley. Rivers sparkled in the sunlight. Birds sang in the trees. In the distance, a city rose toward the sky, its towers gleaming with light. Earth had been humanity's home for thousands of years. Even during the exile, it had been protected by a small force of human ships. The Council had never tried to take it. Perhaps they knew it would mean total war. Mavic looked at the valley with tears in his ancient eyes. "It is beautiful," he said. "So beautiful." "Yes," Karen agreed. "This is what we were fighting for. Not conquest. Not revenge. Just this, home." They walked together through a memorial garden. Carved into black stone were the names of every human who had died during the exile and the war against the swarm. Millions of names, stretching for miles. Mavic stopped at the center of the memorial. A simple fountain stood there, water flowing gently over polished stones. "We were fools," Mavic said quietly. Karen nodded. "Yes, you were. I have wondered many times what would have happened if we had not exiled you. If we had accepted you as equals from the beginning. The swarm still would have come," Karen said. "But we would have faced them together from the start. Millions of lives might have been saved. Entire species might have survived." Mavic bowed his head. "I know. I will carry that guilt with me forever." Karen put her hand on his shoulder. It was a strange gesture between human and alien, but somehow it felt right. "You understand now? The storm was never about anger. It was never about revenge. Then what was it about?" Karen looked at the names carved in stone. All those people who had died. All that sacrifice. It was about showing the galaxy what we really are. Not violent savages. Not dangerous primitives. Just people. People who will fight for what is right. People who will protect the innocent. People who will show mercy even when they have every reason not to. She turned to face Mavic fully. "You smiled when we left. Do you remember?" "Yes," Mavic whispered. "I remember. Now do you understand?" The storm was not the swarm that came from between galaxies. Karen's voice was firm but gentle. The storm was us. The storm was always us. And it will protect this galaxy for as long as humanity exists. Mavic had no answer. He simply bowed his head and wept. Karen stood beside him in the fading light, watching the sun set over the world that had given birth to her species. Tomorrow there would be more work to do, more problems to solve, more challenges to face. But tonight, there was peace, and that was enough. The story of humanity's exile and return would be told for thousands of years. Children on 100 worlds would learn about the species that was thrown away and came back to save everyone. They would learn about the courage of the human soldiers, the brilliance of their scientists, the wisdom of their leaders. But most importantly, they would learn about choice. The choice to forgive. Instead of destroy. The choice to build instead of. Conquer. The choice to be better than those who would wrong them. That was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. And it would never be forgotten.